Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of E&Ftv. Today, we're joined by the brilliant, fabulous, fantastic Rita Varga, who is the CEO of RiseUp. Rita, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tom. It's a pleasure to be here and glad that we managed it.
Yeah, finally, right? We've been talking about this for a while. And I hope my intro was, worthy of you being on here. I thought I'd sort of put in those three statements. But thank you so much, because I know how incredibly busy you are. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. As long as we can get any type of visit anytime. So
of course. Yeah,
that's the life these days.
Yeah, no, exactly that. Well, how we basically like to start the episodes, and I'm sure you know by now, but just to understand a bit about you, your background, and of course, what brought you to starting RiseUp.
Yeah.
So take it away.
Yeah, trying to keep it short and sweet. I always say that I'm a born traveler. I first went on my first solo trip for a long time when I was 13. And then I lived in Germany for a year. And then with 16, I lived in France for 6 months. And then in Malta when I was 17. And actually, by the time I was 18, I moved to the UK for 3 years. So it's kind of like my quote was, I don't go on holidays, I live my holidays. And also when I was 17, before just finishing school, I worked a year for a couple of hotel chains in Budapest, where I'm from Hungary. Literally, that was pre-OTAs. There were already a couple of sort of like offline booking engines or OTA kind of things, but not concretely. And so what we did is we got on the train at the main train station. We went to the borders of Hungary, caught the train back coming from Vienna, coming from Prague, coming from Munich, and we literally sold hotel rooms on trains. So, if I had to speak Japanese, I spoke Japanese. If I had to speak, any kind of language, it was 12% commission for a hotel room, 20% commission on sightseeing tours. And, we commission anything that you can name, dinners, boat trips. So that's what hooked me really into the world of travel and hospitality. And then I actually studied international relations, which is diplomacy, politics, complemented by a BA in tourism. But I was actually trained to become an interpreter for foreign affairs. And I spoke 5 languages by the time I was 18. So that was kind of the handy career, and then the obvious path for both myself and my parents' expectations, of course. And expectations is a really, a key word for my life and sort of the journey as well. But then I worked for a language school chain in the UK, in Devon, for 3 years, where I was managing the schools every bit. And it was just something that I enjoyed, and I was being myself. Versus in politics, there were so many challenges where I thought I had to change who I am to please the industry that I was entering, that I went to another direction. And then I moved to Barcelona when I was 21, and ended up working at the language school as well, and then airlines, sort of like the travel environment. And then again, expectations. So what do you do to be successful? The recipe of success. Let's go into finance. And I went to direction finance within the travel industry. So I did revenue management, and also dealt with travel agencies at a Spanish airlines called Welling. and then ended up working at Mango, which is a clothing line which has nothing to do with travel, but I was responsible for 9 countries, both budgeting the proper shops of Mango clothing line, as well as Mango online in these territories. And literally, that's like the true story is, I had enough one day. It was a Friday afternoon. The sun was shining. It was 2:30. I stood up from my table, and 2.5 hours later, I was out because I just had enough. And we were sitting with my best friend on a couch and saying, so what do I do now?
Yeah.
And I really just wanted to do, and it was, well, it is always time to change your career. There is never a perfect time to restart, but never a bad time to restart as well.
Yeah.
So I literally decided to go into sales, and I ended up working for a company called budgetplaces.com, which was an OTA based in Barcelona, now belonging to eDreams Odigueo. And I did sales there. And with that job, just within 2 months, I was sent over to Berlin to be part of the opening team of the Berlin office. And this is where I have lived for the past 9 years, and evolving then from OTA to distribution, direct distribution, but also channel management, and then revenue management. Worked at Evapro, which is now The Edge, Infor, and basically it was hanging together with the birth of my daughter, who is now 3 years old, that my longtime friend and mentor, Brendan May, who you interviewed a couple of months ago, invited me to work with him on this great project called Hotel Resbot. So I'm also part of the founding team of Hera. And through that journey, through that mentorship journey with Brendan, we end up with RiseUp as well.
Fantastic. And here we are today, I suppose.
There you go.
Yeah. And of course, I suppose with RiseUp, for anybody that's watching now that may not know you, or I mean, if they're on LinkedIn, how they don't know you by now, I have no idea. But if they don't know you and they don't know obviously RiseUp, I suppose, what's the purpose of RiseUp? And ultimately, I suppose, what's the goal?
So RiseUp has the mission to increase the success and engagement in the workplace for women and underrepresented groups, and also to enable organizations to attract, retain, and develop their talent within their organizations. So we are looking from an individual point of view and from an organizational point of view to connect talent with professional and personal development, so career goals.
Fantastic. I suppose, where do you see it going? Where do you see RiseUp heading? I suppose what's the next steps?
So to get to where the next steps are, I would just look back 1 second where we started. We started with being WHTT, Women in Hospitality and Travel Tech, which was based on the challenge actually that I experienced throughout my career of wanting to be growing as a person, wanting to be growing within the industry as a woman, but I found the same challenges over and over again. Which is, identifying of you are not even being counted on when it comes to promotions, lack of role models. So 90% of my colleagues were always male, and they were always around, 10, 15 years older than me. So, having those kind of role models and mentors was amazing, but I didn't find anybody in my reference group, right, with my own challenges, especially having become a mother. Flexibility. So again, coming back, I had my first child, and suddenly after 7 years of home office, I was asked to go to a physical office, and I didn't understand why the same thing would not work out just because
Yeah.
I'd become a mother. Um, so these, and also at the same time, we live in a world where overwork and always accessibility is
Mm.
sort of a demand. And I just wanted to challenge those status quos. I just wanted to challenge also the existing hierarchies that exist in our industry, especially,
Mm. Yeah.
right? We spoke about collaborative culture, and I guess we will be talking a bit more about that. But because the hospitality industry and the whole ecosystem is so hierarchic,
Mm.
um, by not working together
Yeah.
but not working as a team, not working in a collaboration, stops or creates barriers to be able to grow as an organization, and of course
Yeah.
that affects the bottom line. And so it started with my own challenges, but very quickly, people started to come with their own challenges, asking for my advice in terms of where they should go within their careers, which area should take, which people they should connect with,
Yeah.
but just network wise, but also to find mentors, references, role models
Yeah.
from their peer groups, or outside of their peer groups as well. And of course, we are now a community of over 6,000 people.
Mm.
So and of course, individuals keep coming back to me, and of course, we have grown now into a team, majorly existing of volunteers. And asking these questions. But this
Mm.
is where, my hotel resbot experience and my tech experience
Yeah.
comes in and switches on, which is how do you assess people individually,
Yeah.
and but with an increasing number. You can't,
Sure.
you are as a human not able to individually take care of the path of people when they are 6,000. So
Mm.
we found a way through machine learning and artificial intelligence to be able to connect content with individuals.
Right. Yeah.
So using technology and enabling the personal career growth. So many groups or communities are looking towards leadership, but what one has to realize, not every woman wants to go into leadership roles.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm thriving and having my goals, but some people are different, and
Hmm.
we have to embrace, but also thrive, enable the access for that person individually for the
Yeah.
path they have planned for them. So yeah, that's where it is going, and it's a very exciting journey. It's a very tiring journey,
Yeah.
but exciting.
Well, again, I think from my perspective, obviously, when we first met, it was, of course, WHTT. And that was one of the best, I think, connecting with you and collaborating. You touched on collaborating, but collaborating with you not only was a huge sort of proud moment for me to be involved in such a brilliant, innovative, and dynamic group of people. Not to mention, we'll probably come onto them in a moment, but the incredible hosts at Revenue Hacks that has, built up and helped build up that community. But to be involved in something like that, and of course now to be involved with RiseUp and everything that you're doing and how it's growing, it's incredibly sort of I suppose impactful to me, my business, my mindset, and how I see things, because it's been a huge learning curve, and it's something I'm actually going to come on to in a minute. But it's been a huge learning curve for me because I don't think that I was as fully aware of certain challenges from the diversity perspective anyway. And that's really opened my eyes, and what I can do as a what do they call it, as an ally, as a real ally. And that's something that I can only thank you for, because you really did open my eyes to that point. So I know obviously we didn't speak about this before the interview, but that was something I actually wanted to say.
Thank you.
I suppose in terms of something that you and I are, we've spoken about on a number of occasions, and that is the diversity element within the hospitality, but also wider travel and tourism industry. Mm-hmm. From your perspective and your standpoint, I would love your thoughts on it. Maybe where we're at the moment, how it's obviously maybe progressed, but what still needs to be done, I suppose.
Yeah, so it's something that we could talk about the whole day, obviously.
Yeah.
But so in terms of diversity, you have to realize the different, first of all, get conscious about the different layers, visible and invisible layers of diversity, right? Which is again right back at you, because the first conversation, like one-on-one, that we had publicly on Instagram, I think, was a big eye-opener.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, I remember that. I touched on things within that interview, as you probably know, that I've never spoken about publicly in a business forum before. So you opened up a lot of cans in that interview, I've got to be honest. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, we called that the Pandora's box.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
We open discussions and then let's see what happens from there, kind of thing. But once you realize and you kind of spend time with educating yourself about the different layers of diversity, which is again my journey from mid and July, I think it was July 2019 when WHTT was established, and now we are sort of a bit more than 1.5 years later, is the diversity journey that I had and I'm having.
Yeah.
And of course, the travel industry and the travel hospitality ecosystem as such, it's a really diverse industry. You could not get more diverse people. However, in terms of when we are talking career journey and we are, talking diversity is one thing, but what is more important is inclusion. So for me or for you as individuals to be able to imagine ourselves at different departments of a hotel, for instance, or a different, something like the travel tech industry, you have to be represented, you have to be reflected in that industry or in that segment of the space. And this is what the industry is really lacking.
Right.
So if we are, just sticking to gender diversity, over 55% of the hospitality industry is identifies as female, versus in leadership positions, you only have within the ecosystem 23%.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Something that was, more and more studies coming out last year about racial diversity. Only 10%, actually less than 10% of leadership have a racial ethnic background within the hospitality space.
Right.
Effects of COVID, just to again name a couple of numbers, we are still expecting, it's fairly discussed how women have been affected by COVID at the workplace. But I'm Googling on a daily basis how same-sex couples deal with the situation at work flexibility, referencing, something that I talk about a lot as well, bringing your whole self to work. Because of course, something that we spoke about and speak about, and you ask me a lot as well, is how is it being a working mom? Now you can imagine on a daily basis, I get messages that I'm afraid to have a child because of how my workplace is going to look at me.
Yeah.
If I announce that I'm pregnant. I literally was sitting last week at the doctor's office and someone said, asked the doctor, Can you give me paperwork, because I'm afraid I'm going to get fired by announcing I'm pregnant. And I'm like, I can't believe we are in 2021 and this is a part of a discussion.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, that comes back to a lot of things of self-confidence, things of, you know, what I mentioned, reference groups, and basically, the future just is a very simple recipe, but also a slow progress recipe.
Yeah.
Is first identifying, and that's, I think, where the industry lacks the most, is identifying that we have a challenge.
Yes.
With inclusion.
Yeah.
Not with diversity, with inclusion, right? And then what are we going to do about it? How are we going to develop the people that are coming from diverse backgrounds, right? Yeah. And sort of elevating them.
I suppose it's that empowerment piece as well, isn't it? I remember when you got me in touch. So I was doing candidate on the market interviews, right? And you got me in touch with a couple of people. Obviously, they would have appeared on the show now, but I remember discussing the show with them, and their immediate response was, I don't know if I can do this. I don't think this is going to be something I'm comfortable with. And I was just sort of, it was sort of a change of tack for me, because when I first started the channel, you know, when we started recording in 2019, it took me 8 or 9 tries at just the intro, right? And I was sort of saying to them, look, I was exactly the same. I don't just, you know, this doesn't just happen. But I said to them, look, it's just me and you on a camera. You're in your living room. It's recorded. We can do it as many times as you want. But what was beautiful was when we actually came to the day of recording, they'd obviously got, you know, their lighting right, or they sat somewhere with plenty of natural light or whatever, and they'd made sure that they looked in some way presentable and all the rest of it. But as soon as I asked the first question, you could see they were still a little bit nervous. But as soon as we got into it, and you just saw them relax and they became confident. And that's one of the most beautiful things to watch, is when anybody's doing an interview like this. And obviously we've recorded something like nearly 70 episodes now. And you watch people come into their own and you see their personality. And I think it is that empowerment piece. And there's one thing that I think, because one of the best introductions you've given to me, and I'm sure he'll be watching, but from an educational point of view, but from a genuine friendship now, Chris over at Your D&I, he has been one of the best connections and best educators on diversity for me, because every time I've got a question, I'm like, because I'm on a learning journey. I really am. I'm not, you know, I don't profess to be an expert or you know, the greatest ally at the moment. I want to get better, but he is the guy that I go to, and I would not have probably connected with him either as quickly or as deeply as I am without that interview that I did with you, actually, because he actually contacted me, or he said something on that one, and I was talking to him about this. Is that I believe, anyway, in the hospitality and obviously wider sort of travel and tourism industries, but more specifically within the hospitality side of things, because obviously that's where I suppose I specialize most in. It's one of these things where I think leaders not only need to focus on the challenge and the issue that it is, but then which they're not dealing with. So it's not only the acknowledgement, but it's the genuine passion for wanting to make a change. Because I think a lot of people, you may agree with this, but I think there's a lot of entities, businesses, and people out there that want to tick boxes almost. You know, diversity, right? Let's just get that one ticked because we don't want any repercussions. But I just hope that there's more genuine want and a focus on making this situation better. Because if we're living in a world where box ticking is just getting done, there's no real change is going to happen. And that's what's sad about it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually reading a book now called The Fearless Organization,
Mm,
which is about, again, collaboration at the workplace.
mm,
And one thing I got from what you just said now is the being able to make mistakes,
yeah,
and by your team, your colleagues, being in an environment where mistakes are acceptable,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
Where you are allowed to raise your voice, even if it's not going to be the right solution, or but just to have a voice,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And this is what I think leaders need to embrace, is giving everyone a voice, getting rid of those hierarchies that
Mm,
exist of chain, supply chain wise, revenue hacks. You said one of our big
yeah.
things was and is stop the silos,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Make people
Yeah.
talk to each other.
Yep.
So once you're able to create that type of culture, it is not an HR thing. It's not a political statement. It's not only even a leadership thing. It's being part of the infinite game, and you know genuinely affecting the bottom line,
Mm,
right? Because
yeah.
teams that collaborate make 3 times more revenue than teams that do not.
There you
And
go.
this is not my brain. This is statistics.
Yeah. No, this is
Yeah.
it. And I think it's one of these things where it's the age old thing, isn't it? We move stronger together, right? If we're together, we're going to be stronger. If you're on your own, it's just not going to happen, or it's not going to happen anywhere near as quickly. And you're not going to gain. The thing that I love about the collaboration piece is you're getting ideas from other people that are experts in their own fields that you just, as good as we are, we're never going to understand every facet of what we're talking about. So as soon as you get these other minds, these other brilliant dynamic minds that are just thinking outside the box, they always bring something new, and ultimately whatever you're doing is going to be elevated. And I struggled, I'm going to be honest with you as well, because the collaboration piece was a difficult one for me, because I've done everything with Edwards and Finn for such a long time. And for me to start giving that responsibility, or trust, I suppose that's the thing. I think it's trust that somebody else will do it to the standard that you want it to be done.
Yeah.
um that was a big release for me, but as soon as I did it, it was a release in a lot of ways, but
Yeah.
it really paid off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of the same journey for me. I was in home office alone for the longest time, partially with a French company, so everyone else was in Paris,
Yeah.
and then for an American company, where we had a German team, but like distributed all around Germany and then the US. So you were a lone player.
Yeah.
Even when it came to my own education, I reached out to people like Brendan externally to educate myself, to get a reference,
Yeah.
because I was a lone player. And then now suddenly leadership journey of my own. I have now, or we have now, a team of 39 people. And it's
Mm,
always the question, because of the culture as such within the industry, of, oh, I need your approval on my statement on this. I need your approval on this. And I genuinely said, be, you were a member, you identify
yeah.
with our values, and I trust you as a team member to
Mm,
carry those values the best way you can.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And don't be afraid to make mistakes. By the way, I make mistakes every day, if not
Yep.
every hour.
Yeah, trust me. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So that's just the validation piece,
Yeah.
and sort of the seeing your team as carrying the same values piece, that
Yeah.
is is making teamwork so amazing, because ultimately as well, then people start to believe in themselves.
Yeah. Yes. I
And then
massively agree
grow.
with that. Yeah. Again, it's that empowerment piece, isn't it? It's just it's empowering them to make or to drive decisions or to drive those statements through, because as you say, you trust them. Therefore, you'll want them to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. And then, as I said before, then releasing you to be able to do what you need to do and focus on the things that you need to, and allowing them to drive that sort of area of the business forward. It's just a natural thing.
Yeah, and of course, if we are talking in that context, future
Mm.
of work, we are all working in a home office, etc.,
Yeah.
etc. If you don't have that trust within your organization,
Yeah.
you are losing your business, because everybody is working from home now. You have to trust your team that
Yeah.
they are doing their best that they can, and there is a big stigma on home office and working alone at the office, etc.,
Yeah.
etc., of you doing less because you are on your own.
Yeah.
Well, I can just assure you, it's just the other way around.
Well, back when obviously the offices were all open and before the pandemic, I used to have members of teams within my clients say to their bosses or their heads of revenue or whatever it might be, look, I need to work from home today because I need to get away from the distractions of the office.
Yeah.
When you're in the office, you get people asking you questions, you get this, you get that. When you're at home, I'm able to just focus, and they'll say, yeah, take the day at home, come back tomorrow. And then you sort of step back and you kind of think, so you've just said to get more work done, go home, and then come back into the office where you're going to get less work done. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I was, I was like, what? so anyway, so we're starting to see this sort of change of mindset. And in fact, one of the clients that I deal with at the moment have actually said we're not going to go back to a completely office-based role, whereas before they did, which I think,
Yeah.
now they're looking at 2 days in the office, 3 days at home, which I think is brilliant, because you're not completely losing out on the team element. And also they're getting to work from home, getting that flexibility, that autonomy, and that trust. You said it quite rightly, actually. That trust element, there is a stigma massively actually around home working, because they just see you sitting in your dressing gown, eating cereal from a salad bowl, and occasionally looking at your emails. You know what I mean? That's we've all seen that, and it's one of these things where that's not the way things are anymore. Times have changed. So anyway, I digress on that point. So I suppose with you, it'd be great to understand anything that's going on with you or RiseUp, anything exciting that's going on at the moment, any plans that you've got going on. So it'd be great to hear anything that's going on with you guys.
Yes. So in terms of RiseUp, we
Mm-hmm.
just launched the platform, call it phase one,
Yes.
uh, of RiseUp a couple of weeks ago. And of course, we have milestones every single day because our team is growing.
Yeah.
So we are now restructured for having a head of EMEA and looking over the team of local chapters, we call them,
Right.
for the EMEA region.
Yeah.
So that local chapters are responsible to identify local challenges within their own geographical area,
Right.
and
Okay.
sort of fight them on an individual level, and
Mm-hmm.
leverage so identify not only the challenge but the opportunity, and leverage and thrive that
Yes.
opportunity. And then US is opening now, East Coast, West Coast, and then our leader, who has been until now responsible for Singapore, she's sort of looking to head the APAC region,
Yeah.
so that we are not only, we have spoken about the global challenge, but we want to be able to address and sort of leverage the opportunity of growth on a local level.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, it hangs a lot together with the fact that a lot of companies started to hire on a remote basis. So there are more and more remote teams
Yeah.
created as well, and we created this piece of tech based on the community element. And we sort of want to keep thriving the community element as well, so that you are able to connect with your peers, but grow on an individual level. So that's one thing that is very exciting. We have got our first corporates that are tapping into the growth path as well.
Fantastic.
So we have got corporates, as well as incorporating associations, hotel associations, other communities, which are then operating on their individual level, but leveraging our technology. And because we are focused on travel, or the travel ecosystem, then consuming our content, but as well as, you know, the tapping points of being able to train themselves, coach themselves on soft skills and hard skills as well. And then, of course, my brain baby is still there, and that has been a tough journey. Hotel ResBot, Hera by Hotel ResBot. So Hera is growing, and of course the challenges have quite changed since we first started. So the people who don't know, Hera is an artificial intelligence based email reservation agent for hotels and restaurants. So we are now working with teams, reservation teams, distribution teams, but of course, because of people wearing so many hats, different teams, to be able to provide a better service by answering automatically or semi-automatically emails and inquiries for them, with them.
Fantastic. Look at you, busy as ever.
Yeah.
I was going to say your sort of famous statement on revenue hacks was always sexy tech. So I guess with regards to your global coverage of RiseUp now, I suppose we're looking at the sexy world domination. Would that be right in saying that?
Let's make diversity sexy.
There we go. There we go.
Because so one thing, I'm just a Hungarian girl who had her challenges and acted out on them. So and so many articles or studies and also like talks and events talk about diversity on a high level. What sort of my goal is to make diversity and inclusion, most of all, and everybody's business. Right. So that's why let's make diversity sexy.
That's going to be the tagline. I think we end on that. So let's make diversity sexy. Awesome. Well, Rita, I just want to say a massive thank you to you for taking the time out of your diary. As everyone would have just heard, you are incredibly busy, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Looking forward to the next one with you.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to have a catch up, see how RiseUp is doing on its sexy world domination.
Anyone who wants to nominate me for the Hot Wings Challenge, I'm here.
There you go. I've had so many people asking to get on that. Anyway. So yeah, again, thank you so much. As we said, let's have a catch up to see how the world domination is going for RiseUp, maybe in a few months' time, towards the end of the year. And as ever, thank you for being awesome. Guys, don't forget to see who's on next week's episode now.